Hello, welcome to Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Maybe one of my favorite videos to do is talk about rumors that we have coming up. Although, all of the rumors that pass by my front door or across my Discord, as an example, which you can join via Patreon, are not always something I bring up or bring to the YouTube audience because I want to be a little bit responsible with the things that I talk about. However, thankfully, Games Workshop has announced something that's let us both validate some rumors and also got us being able to talk about some cool stuff that's coming out. So let's talk about the cool thing that's coming out first before we talk about the rumors, right? Announcing Warhammer Quest Dark Water. Okay, let's start with the name's terrible. That's the first thing I want to say. Dark Water is a terrible name. I don't need Flint, Michigan vibes. Okay, I don't need ecological. I live in the UK where they just took all the restrictions off the water safety that we have. So we have a lot of dark water. So maybe it's in reference to that, but that would be very on the nose. Anyway, what's Warhammer Quest? Warhammer Quest is a self-contained dungeon crawler style game, which was made famous by And the Broadsword guy and a bunch of other people. Okay, now they've done another version of this recently where they did Warhammer Quest Silver Tower. I think it was a Warhammer Quest. And then they also did the Hexed Hamlet, which was a real problematic product they brought out. It's actually called Curse City, but we called it the Hexed Hamlet for a while because Curse City was actually banned in Games Workshop live stream chats because of the aforementioned cursed product release. There was a problem with the launch of it, so that not enough copies were sold or made or brought out. Then maybe some scalpers got it, but I think really it was Games Workshop underperformed. So it's had a very interesting kind of up and down history. Warhammer Quest and these kind of box sets where it's a band of adventurers and you can just fight against a bunch of people. But as a box set, very much like you get with things like Zombicide and other stuff, it's Games Workshop's kind of like pitch to the normie market. They're just like, as well as obviously all of you, if you're watching me, you're not in the normie market, I don't think. As well as to all of you, like, you're like, oh my God, I'm pumped. I'm really excited about that. That's really fun. Let's talk about that. But they also have pitched this to, like, you know, normie people. Do you want to buy it, build it, like play a little board game, do an adventure? And I think in the past, at least with Silver Tower, I think maybe it was a little too Warhammer, right? And I think this one is a little bit more kind of normie based, or at least that initial images. We're going to break down in some detail. However, Dark Water, terrible name. But if you don't agree, let me know in the chat. And if you don't agree, let me know in the comments. But I got to say, bad pitch, just straight off. And it does look very nostalgic. Let's talk about it as like a piece before we go any further. I'd say it's a pretty good piece if you're pitching it to a normie audience, right? I could feel that while you and I can see some Age of Sigmar elements on here, actually, it's also a pretty major departure from what we've seen in the past with Age of Sigmar. And my reasoning for that is there are no Stormcast Eternals in this at all. Not front and center. Okay? So this might not be an Age of Sigmar product. It might not be an old world product. It might be an abridged version. Let's have a little read through. Evil lurks in the dark. There's some in the water, and the whole of Gairan is under threat. Oh no, it's based in AOS. It's probably time to gather together a band of heroes, renegades, and misfits and go on a quest. So it's based in the mortal realms. Okay, that's right. An all new Warhammer Quest game set in the mortal realms of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Now, second question to you people watching it. And it does also say in the mortal realms at the bottom there, so I apologize about that. Reading comprehension low. Also, you might not know this, but Gairan, specifically the realm of life, is constantly under attack by Nurgle. We're going to talk about this more in a bit. Constantly attacked by Nurgle, and the way that they fix it is Alarielle, the goddess. She rains her. This is absolutely lore accurate. FYI, she rains her bathwater down on the realm of life where she lives to cleanse it. Just want you to know that that's absolutely true. That's the science, and that is the lore. That's 100% lore accurate. Okay, let's go back to my initial pitch. Question to everybody is, Warhammer Quest Dark Water, does that read like AOS to you? Genuine question, because that does not read like AOS to me. Looks like a D&D adventure book. It looks almost, I would say, old world. That first kind of like character in the front looks, I would say, very Bretonian-like. You've got a very classic dwarf at the bottom, a regular human, and another regular human as well. Now, everything around it reads Age of Sigmar to me. You have Pestigors, which we can talk about more, Blight Kings, and in the back, the big new Nurgle model that's apparently coming out, which we'll talk about when we start looking at the rumors. But to me, it doesn't read like Age of Sigmar, and I think that's really fascinating because if you don't know, the launch of Age of Sigmar 4 was a little bit stuttered. Games Workshop would really like their launch edition boxes, specifically featuring Stormcast, to do really well, like any launch box they do with Space Marines. But unfortunately, Space Marines and Stormcast just don't hit the same. Now, there's a bunch of reasons as to why. You might think it's because of this long history that they've had with Space Marines and people have been able to develop fandoms over years. Or it could just be that Stormcast have always been a bit of a dead turkey when it comes to narrative and also expressive representation. So them not being on the launch box, I think, is crazy times. That's worth noting, because that's them basically saying, we're not using them front and center. Now, Warhammer Quest comes out from the main studio. There's two studios in Games Workshop. There's the main studio, and then there's Specialist Design Studio. They're responsible for Old World, Heresy, Blood Bowl, Necromunda. I think that's everything. Upcoming Banner War, who knows? But I think this is really interesting, and I think it really starts to make us discuss whether or not Stormcast will become a featured centerpiece in the Mortal Realms in the future. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I think that's actually better for Age of Sigmar if they were the visitors to the story versus the center line for the story. And I've said this many times. Anyway, that's a lot of kind of chat about this box. As a box set, really fun normally to pick up. They're normally designed okay. Obviously, Games Workshop operates pretty much a minimal viable product when it comes to game design across all of their systems. So it probably hasn't had like as much thought as something like, you know, a Zombicide or something that's done that has to actually have word of mouth sell it because they know for a fact all of you are just going to buy it anyway. So it doesn't really matter about like the quality of it when it comes to game design. But I played Silver Tower. It was pretty fun, if not a little janky. I never played Curse City, and if you did play Curse City, please let me know. Now, there's a bunch of stuff we're going to talk about when it actually comes to this image, and this is via rumors we've seen in the past, okay? We've had a bunch of rumors. So the idea of a new Warhammer Quest coming out was a leak that was talked about by a guy called Boone. I think that's the correct way to describe it. And a bunch of the things that they said was coming out have been like semi-confirmed via this box. Because this box is not going to contain giant, you know, Great Unclean One style models. I mean, if it does, that would be crazy. But let's just talk about the box before we go any further. Start front and center, we have what seems to be a Cities of Sigmar knight. Very much coded to look like a Bretonian character, I would argue, at the front. But this means maybe we're going to see more Cities models in the future, or a Cities second wave. So that's the first thing. I don't think we need to talk about that too much. On the bottom right-hand corner, well, just my head is covering it. If we go back to the box so I can show you what I'm talking about. Sorry, wrong one. Down this bottom right-hand corner, you can see that there's a dwarf, right? Now, the most recent and most common rumor that we've now had about dwarves is that Fire Slayers, specifically, would be removed from the setting. Now, Fire Slayers, I don't think are going anywhere, because the following rumor that came away from that's one of those things I don't bring up online, take a bit of responsibility, because I don't want people to get worried or upset. The new rumor is that we're going to get what's called soup, or a conglomerate, like a conjoined faction. They're going to be conglomerated into each other. So we're going to see Fire Slayers and original dwarfs put together, like you see with Uruk Warclans. We'll see like a Dwarven Holds book. We've heard of a Dwarven Holds book being a rumor, and now we've heard of this conjoined faction being a rumor. These are from two different rumor sources. And this little dwarf that we see at the bottom gives us an idea that we might be going back to just regular, vanilla, dry white toast, Taylor Swift dwarfs. That's what we might be getting, okay? And we're going to be, and now I like OG dwarfs, just as a statement. I just want to point that out there. But mixing them with fire slayers, just normal short men, short kings, is what we could be getting. And I think this picture kind of gives us an indication that that's what we're going to be seeing, right? And I think that's true. Now, before we talk about the other characters, I also want to shout out that there's no Age of Sigmar logo on here either. Even though this is a battle set in the Mortal Realms in quotation marks, no Age of Sigmar logo, because the question we need to ask ourselves is Age of Sigmar as a brand, if they have, I mean, this is a FTSE 100 company now. Is Age of Sigmar as a brand written on the front of it a negative, right? Let's find out. We'll see. Now, I personally love Age of Sigmar. I love playing Age of Sigmar. I love running Age of Sigmar events. I love talking about Age of Sigmar. I love painting, building Age of Sigmar. So to me, it's not a negative. But you go into your local hobby store, there's always some dickhead who's like, Age of Sigmar? What's that? Happens a lot, right? That happens a lot. And that is, you know, a mental, like psychological, psychic scar left over from the end times, which I think is something that's going to happen a lot. Okay, it's going to continuously be a problem. But it has been pointed out to me by a turtle focker, thank you to you, that Silver Tower also didn't have the AOS logo. All right, that's worth talking about. That's great. Okay. Where we start getting into real difficult waters, thank you for the, come on, you could at least like the video for the pun. Yeah, where it starts getting a bit murky, you could say where we're entering dark waters, is the lady and the fella that we can see on this image behind our Cities of Sigmar character. Both of these, I couldn't identify what faction I would say that they would be from. Okay, they look Bretonnian, or at least the lady looks like a damsel from Bretonnia to me. That's how it reads. And the knight looks like a knight that you would see in Empire. So yeah, the ears are hidden, so it could be an elf. Absolutely. Although none of the iconography or anything on it, in my opinion, reads like any of the Age of Sigmar factions that I know of. Now, if you have another idea, then let me know. But for me, I can't really... there's nothing really that reads to me. Obviously, the main guy reads as Cities of Sigmar for sure, although, again, not 100% like it. A good idea is that maybe all of the models are Flesh Eater Corpse models, and they're in a delusion. So, yeah, I couldn't tell you what the lady or the knight are in relation to just generally Age of Sigmar, and that's wild. Like, that's wild. Does that indicate a new faction? Does that indicate a new direction for Cities of Sigmar? Does that indicate, I mean, what does it indicate? Or is it just going to be this standalone box that's like roughly referenced to Age of Sigmar because it kind of has to be, and then they're not really thinking it through? Great question, not sure. Okay. And the confusion is interesting, like, you know, but this is where it gets really, really spicy. Because in the foreground of the picture, if you take the time to look at it, you can clearly see Beastmen. This is a Beastman. This isn't a Skaven. This is a Beastman. Why is this important? Well, if you haven't kept track, at the beginning of Age of Sigmar 4, Beastman or Beastman Brayherds as a faction was deleted from the game. They were removed as a faction. The entire range, and they were ported over to Old World. This got a lot of people upset. So a year and a half later to be releasing more Beastmen is crazy stuff. However, big rumors have been of something called pestigors. Okay? So big rumors of something called pestigors. What we have in Age of Sigmar right now is we have gors, or goat men, but they are aligned, because they're chaos-based, they're aligned to different gods. So for Tzeentch, we have Zangor, and for Slaanesh, we have Slangor. Slangor. Now, there's also, and has been in the past in old Warhammer days, there was also Pestigor and there were Khorngor. Now, we've had the most recent Age of Sigmar Khorne book, or the Blazer Khorne book, so it's unlikely that we're going to be seeing Khorngor anytime soon. But the Pestigor would be a new sculpt, and has been a rumored model release that's coming up, because Nurgle has had a big model range, kind of like semi-leaked, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Copium Gore, yeah. You still get your Beastmen, but they're just in all the different factions, which is a little bit disappointing. So Pestigor would just be Gore that you could use in Nurgle, but there's so much more in this picture. As an example, one of the other things that got announced, we're going to talk about this big model in the back, right, is a unique Nurgle Demon Prince. So in the back of this picture is what looks to be a Great Unclean one. So if you just take a moment to look in the back, that's a Great Unclean one. You can see that there. But that is not anything like, or the head, the armor on the side, is not anything like what either of the Great Unclean One sculpts looks like. It's none of those. So this is very much confirming, I think, that rumor that we're going to be seeing of different, a new Demon Prince style centerpiece model, which is kind of an odd place for Nurgle or a Nurgle model release to go. Very, very odd. Now, if we take a look in the left-hand side over here, we have another model as well that we can talk about. So this is, oh no, that's our unique Demon Prince apparently. Wait, hold on. This is our Realm Gore Ritualist for Nurgle. So again, these are all the leaks that were announced. So this is our Realm Gore Ritualist, but for Nurgle. So it's like a priest character. It could be a Great Unclean one, right? Now, yeah, sure. It looks a little bit like a Great Unclean one, but I think that the head is too specific. I think this will be a model that gets released. They're teeing up Nurgle being only centerpieces. Absolutely. So we've got like a priest-style character here. At the side, just behind this big wall, is a kind of gribbly monster, which also has been part of some leaks, where apparently this is going to be Rockgut Troggoths, but Nurgle. Now, one of the things that we had in the back, one of the things that we had back in the day is you did have Chaos Trolls. You also had Chaos Ogres as well. So seeing them return, and we've also had, very specifically from Tamrakhan, which was a book, which I have at my feet. Tamrakhan, you have the ability to have Chaos Trolls. Like Nurgle Chaos Trolls, very specifically, were a thing that they used to do and were a part of the game. There used to be Nurgle Toads. There used to be, so Nurgle Trolls is probably what we're seeing here. And then, apparently, this rumor is also saying that we're going to get a refresh on Putrid Blight Kings. Blight Kings also getting a refresh. Now, this could just be what Blight Kings are going to be looking at, but these are the rumors, right? The rumors initially stated that, just to be clear, these are rumors that they're going to release a Warhammer Quest box, and here's some other stuff that's going to happen. So there's a new Festus model, apparently, as well. A Pestigore Shaman, Pestigores, and then a bunch of, I think that's everything. That's everything I could read, at least. Let me just, Pestigores, something else, but Nurgle. So a bunch of Nurgle stuff as well. What this does do is it semi-confirms that this leaker is leaking the right information, right? Which is super interesting. So, big Nurgle refresh, bunch of new Nurgle stuff. If you're excited about Nurgle, for me, the real question is what do these characters at the front mean? If we take a look at some of the other Warhammer Quests or Curse Seat as well, sometimes there was just stuff in there that you never saw the light of day. It was like concept art, right? That was just like a single model, and it was just something that was cool. But either way, I'm personally very excited. I think this is very fun. I think there's a bunch of cool stuff that's out there. I think I like the front of the box. I'm excited about the box generally. I'm excited about maybe more people being accidentally tricked into joining into the Mortal Realms. I think that would be cool. I'm excited for that as well. So I think this is fun for what it is, except in the name. Fun for what it is, except in the name. And also, cool that we're getting a bunch of like confirmations of some rumors that we're going to potentially see in the future. Don't forget that we're also expecting a big ogre model refresh as well. That's also on the cards, which is super exciting. So there's a bunch of really fun stuff coming out for Age of Sigmar over the next few months or next year or so. So I'm pretty pumped. I'm pretty pumped. I'm pretty excited for it all. I think it's going to be really cool. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching my video. Thank you to the chat who are hanging out with me while we've been doing this. This has been cool. If you ever want to support me, you can like, subscribe, join my Patreon. Any of those things, that would be ace. I'll see you soon. Bye.